All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. It's nothing like listening to a little Our Lady piece to get you revved up. They're going to be coming in studio here in about 20 minutes. They got a show at the Joint at the Hard Rock, which is a really awesome place, by the way. Gene, have you ever been down there? Please don't sing their music. You're going to ruin it. Please don't do that.
Yeah, I have been there a couple of times.
It's awesome, isn't it?
We were there last year for the Las Vegas Bowl when they had both their marching bands on both sides for that little banquet.
I remember that. We had
that was a blast.
STP. I just saw them. STP. I saw them last week over there. So this is a pretty cool show tonight. 3 great alternative rock bands live. Our Lady Peace and Bush. They're going to be performing tonight. So those guys are coming in here in just a little bit. Not every day you get to interview some guys that have sold millions of albums worldwide. Certainly one of the most popular bands to ever come out of Canada. So they'll be joining us here in just a little bit. I want to ask them, too, because Rain Maid is a pretty political guy. I want to ask him what he thinks about the political spectrum, what's going on in this country in regards to Donald Trump and the division that we have. I'm very interested to hear what he has to say about that. Speaking of Donald Trump, he spoke last night.
I bet he's very pro-Trump.
I disagree with you. Most Canadians are not. Well, we'll find out. He's going to be here, so we'll ask him. But Donald Trump was lashing out at several individuals at a campaign stop yesterday in Minnesota. And so they started off by playing a Prince song, Purple Rain. And
you're not going to mention the 70,000 person crowd that he played for.
Well, no, because that's not part of the story.
Right.
Why would I mention that? So they played Purple Rain, and the estate of Prince is now slamming Trump. Apparently, there we go. Nothing like a little Purple Rain. Apparently, the estate told the Trump administration to stop playing Purple Rain, but they didn't listen to him, and they continued to play it. I don't think you can sue somebody for that, though, right?
That is classic Trump. I don't know. It depends on the BMI or the ASCAP. There's a couple of things. I mean, they're not profiting off of it, so I don't believe that you can sue for that.
Something tells me that Prince, or the artist formerly known as Prince, or the artist, whatever he wanted to be called before tragically lost his life, something tells me Prince would probably not be a supporter of Donald Trump. I think that's a fair thing to say. I mean, I know he's passed away and all.
Well, you know how he died, right?
Well, painkillers.
No, he took what he thought was a painkiller, and it was actually laced with fentanyl. And there's a chance that fentanyl came through the southern border, which Donald Trump is trying to fortify.
Okay, so I didn't know that. But I'm just telling you, I don't think Prince would have been a Donald Trump supporter. And maybe I'm wrong on that one. But anyway, his estate has told the Trump administration time and time again, we don't want you playing Prince's music. We don't want you playing Purple Rain. So what does Donald Trump do in spite? Prince is an icon, okay? Donald Trump is not an icon, okay? What does he do? He decides to play Purple Rain and do exactly what his estate told him not to do. Listen, Prince is adored in Minnesota. Okay, he's adored everywhere, but I mean, especially in Minnesota, where he's from. So probably not a good start to the campaign event last night. So then Trump decided to trash Ilhan Omar, who, by the way, just filed for divorce. And while he's trashing Omar, he's taunting a protester. Have a listen to this.
Representative Omar has a history of launching virulent anti-Semitic screeds, whether you like it or not. She is a disgrace to our country, and she is one of the big reasons that I'm going to win and the Republican Party is going to win Minnesota in 13 months.
So he's going off, and this is all happening. You know, he's taunting a protester. And listen, I'm not an Ilhan Omar defender. I never have been. I think Omar has said some pretty bad things. With that being said, this is typical Donald Trump. And maybe he's right. I don't know. I don't think Omar is really helping anybody. But Trump also went on to talk about Turkey, and he talked about the Kurds. And as you know, that he withdrew all those troops from Syria, and a lot of Republicans are going after Trump. A lot of Republicans, including many that are staunch Donald Trump supporters, have now gone after the president and saying, listen, how could you do this? You know, how could you pull these troops out? And you know, how could you turn your back on our allies? So Donald Trump, this is Donald Trump last night talking about this situation.
So Turkey is right now waging a very tough campaign against the Kurds. We got along with the Kurds, and we help the Kurds. And don't forget, they're also fighting for their land. You know that. But they're fighting. So we have 3 choices. You ready? Here are the 3 choices. We don't have any soldiers there because we've left. We won. We left. Take a victory, United States. We left. Take a victory. Take a victory.
Listen.
So he's withdrawing the troops to give them a big vacation.
I mean, apparently.
Okay, I got you.
I don't know.
A victory lap paid for by the United States government, stopping in 10 countries, a bunch of amusement parks with a giant per diem.
Apparently
Awesome.
so. Listen, this is bad. We both agree on this one. This is bad.
Wow.
When you have many like Lindsey Graham who are speaking out against this, those who have stuck by Donald Trump thick and thin, this is the first real criticism that I have seen, certainly from somebody like Lindsey Graham. Don't you think that is a bad thing? That's a bad thing for Donald Trump.
It's not a good thing. It's not good, especially because Gunay Yablitz came on our show yesterday, and he said that there's about 5 to 10, it could be tens of thousands of lives that are now at risk by removing the 1,000 troops the troops that were there. But now what it does is it gives Donald Trump and his campaign an idea of exactly what he has to do to get people like Lindsey Graham to disagree with him.
Yeah,
which no one's really talking about. Like that's how far he has to go, and it seems like there's definitely a line drawn when it comes to war.
Here's what I don't
and making the wrong decisions internationally with war.
Last night, though, in trying to defend the withdrawing of troops, he spoke about how he saw these families that are mourning when these cargo planes come in with coffins and their children come back, dead. And he used that to try to say, listen, this is why I want to withdraw troops. But it doesn't make sense, and here's why. Many people are saying many more lives, innocent lives, will be lost because of withdrawing these troops.
Than American lives.
Right, exactly. So,
it's a stagnant situation.
Of course it is. Absolutely
and it's not exactly expensive.
Right.
Again, the military is 2.53 million people in it. This is 1,000 troops.
Well, when you make that assessment and you do what Donald Trump did last night on the campaign trail and talk about, what these families have to go through and the anguish they're going through, and you try to use that to make what you did, as the right decision, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that Trump used that to his advantage,
right.
And I think it's very, very sad.
The justification had to come from somewhere.
So Trump also spoke about his favorite subject, apparently, when it comes to presidents of other foreign countries. That is Joe Biden. He was talking about Joe Biden. He said Biden, only a good VP because he kissed the president's ass. Listen to this soundbite.
He was only a good vice president because he understood how to kiss Barack Obama's
What do you think Mike Pence is doing, by the way? What do you think Mike Pence does every day? I would make the argument that Mike Pence kisses a lot more ass when it comes to Donald Trump than Joe Biden did to Barack Obama. Would you disagree with that? I know you're a Trump supporter.
I don't know about kissing ass, but I think that he definitely makes he makes a lot of excuses for the president's actions, and sometimes those go against what he actually believes internally. I think that happens on a consistent basis.
When you're the vice president, it's your job to support some of the president's ideas and support some of the things he's trying to get passed. But to use that type of language in front of this large crowd and to talk again about Joe Biden, why does he keep talking about Joe Biden now? I mean, after everything that has gone on, especially with the Ukrainians, and now we're learning new information about the associates to Giuliani who are behind bars. They've got dirty fingernails, I'll tell you that right now. And then Donald Trump made the statement, and as far as these two men, he said, quote, if I'm not mistaken, he said, I don't know those men, but you might see me in a picture with them. That's what he said yesterday. So Giuliani's in a lot of trouble. We're going to learn more information about these two guys that are now behind bars that were arrested. And now we're learning that there possibly might be a second whistleblower that's going to come out. It's going to testify. This is not good news for the president. Make no mistake about it. This is not good. It's not good for the country. It's not good for the president. Well, I guess you could make that argument, right? Maybe it is good for the country. I guess if you're not a Trump supporter, you can make that argument too. But we're in some very sticky times as far as the Trump administration is concerned. If you thought the Miller investigation was bad, in my personal opinion, this is 10 times worse because the evidence is right there in the transcript. And we've talked about this before. The evidence is right there in the transcript.
You've seen what just happened. The RNC is now requesting all the transcripts from Joe Biden's calls with the president of Ukraine when he was vice president. So it opens up a whole different Pandora's box.
But here's the difference.
And Trump released the transcript, so Biden will be expected to do the exact same thing.
He did not release word for word.
He released.
He did not release word for word.
There's a couple of ellipses in there, but he released what is basically the transcript.
But if you read the transcript, it's very simple, and we've spoken about this before.
Certainly
he
enough
asked
to
for a
incriminate
favor.
himself.
Right, exactly. He asked for a favor. Then he speaks about the Biden and his son asking to open up an investigation. These are things you can't do when you're the president of the United States and you asked for an investigation to dig up dirt on one of your political rivals. It's something that you just cannot do. It is wrong. And for any Republican to have absolutely no problem with this and to all of a sudden think that Donald Trump all of a sudden cares about corruption, when in my personal opinion, and again, this is just my personal opinion, he's had the most corrupt administration since I've been alive. I think it is very, very interesting for any Republican to say that they don't think he brought up Joe Biden and his son in that conversation, and that had absolutely nothing to do with the fact that this is one of his political opponents. You are complicit. Would you agree with that at least, JD? Would you at least give me that?
That you are complicit?
If you do not believe that that he mentioned Joe Biden's name and that had nothing to do with the fact that this is one of his political rivals. You don't think that had anything to do with him bringing up this name or anything to do with Rudy Giuliani sending Rudy Giuliani over there?
I have kind of an issue with this because by that logic, then anyone could be a former president or a former or anyone could that goes up against Donald Trump in any capacity could have, no matter how many problems you have in your past, no matter how many skeletons you have, you are immune because you're going after you're going up against the president of the United States. Bottom line, Brian, Joe Biden has been in office for the better part of 30 years, since 1972. It's not unreasonable to want to look and see if there was some corruption that he was attached to. And his son, like it or not, is getting $50,000 a month, or was, to work for a Ukrainian company.
Not against the law.
A Ukrainian. I'm not saying it's against the law. I understand nepotism is not against the law, but there was a $1 billion contract attached to that. And then you have Joe Biden saying, "Hey, if this guy is released or if this guy isn't fired in 6 hours, I'm not giving you $1 billion in funding." I mean, that stuff actually happened. So I don't have a problem with Donald Trump looking into that. And regardless if he's a political opponent or not, which he may not win, Elizabeth Warren could win. I would have a much bigger issue if he was declared the Democratic nominee and then this call took place.
So you don't have a problem. I just want to make sure I get your position right.
You're stating that if you believe this, you're complicit. I mean,
yes.
Define complicit.
No, that's not what I said.
You did. You said if you don't believe that Donald Trump looked into this because of the fact that Joe Biden is his possible political opponent, that you're complicit with what? Like we're at fault?
Well, I'll explain. I thought I already did, but I'll explain it again.
No, not.
If you don't believe that there is part of Donald Trump,
I would say there's a 5 to 10% part.
Okay,
right?
well,
And
whatever.
I said that last week.
But there are Republicans out there that think that the president brought up Joe Biden and it has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that this is one of his political rivals, and that is absurd.
Well, obviously, that is not the case.
Well,
clearly, a small degree of that reason is because of the fact that it could potentially be his main political rival. But again, he is not confirmed as that, and he may not get there. He could have a health problem. I mean, look at Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders had a heart attack 2 weeks ago. Donald Trump could have a health problem. He's 73. Elizabeth Warren could have a health problem. She's 70. So I don't think that he's guaranteed to be the Democratic nominee by any stretch, and we could easily see Hillary Clinton declare in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Well, look, I don't know if Hillary Clinton's going to enter the race. I have no idea. I'll be honest, I'd be a little surprised if she did. And I know everybody, and I mean everybody on the left thinks that she is. Or maybe not everybody, but 90%.
A lot of the right do as well.
I don't think...
They see the writing on the wall.
Yeah, I don't think she's going to enter
And I think
race.
it's interesting that the Epstein situation just kind of went away. No more looking into that.
Well, what does that have to do with Hillary Clinton entering the race?
Because her husband is directly connected to it.
So is Donald Trump.
Not as connected as her husband is.
How do you know that? How do you know that?
Was there a picture of Donald Trump in a dress on his wall in one of his houses?
That doesn't mean that Clinton wanted it there. What does that have to do with
That's
it?
definitely that indicates a pretty strong relationship, to say the least.
Here's what I care about. Did anybody break the law? Did Bill Clinton break the law? Did Donald Trump break the law? If you're hanging out with someone who is a child molester, you name it, Epstein, sadly, there's no laws in place. You can hang out with people like that, but did they break the law? That's what I care about. I think that's what's more important here. But Donald Trump has enough things to worry
this
about.
Ukraine situation just sheds light on the Bidens and Joe. It helps Hillary Clinton long term. And again, it's going to be about money. The election will be about money. The nomination will be about money. The primary will be about money. And Hillary Clinton has access to a lot of it, and she's not afraid to raise it. Elizabeth Warren has basically sworn it off. She just wants private donors. She won't take corporate donors. That's a big deal.
It's going to be interesting. It's a good time to be doing talk radio. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
There's a lot going on in the political spectrum. We got this investigation involving the Ukrainians and possible corruption. We've got Donald Trump in some trouble with Mayor Giuliani. There's a lot of things to cover. We will continue to, of course, cover all these subjects, but we're going to have some fun coming up next segment. These guys, I've been a fan of theirs since I was in junior high school, man. They've sold millions of albums throughout the world. The band Our Lady Peace. The guys will be in studio coming up here in just a few minutes and join us. Take a quick break. Be back right after this. You're listening to The Vegas Take.